I'm here today to provide an update on the implementation of department improvements from the Wichita Police Department's organizational assessment. Specifically, I want to update you on the implementation of body cameras, a body camera policy, and other related initiatives with help to improve public safety, transparency, and community relations. First off, regarding body cameras, I'm excited to report that we are in the final stages of the body-worn camera process. Our progress is on track, and we will meet our goal of full implementation by the end of the year. We have ordered the first 106 cameras for the Patrol North Bureau. They have been received and are ready for deployment. Captain White is preparing a training curriculum for the officers using the body-worn cameras to make sure that our officers understand the training curriculum and that they understand the technical aspects of the cameras and using them themselves. The training for our officers is slated to begin in early October. Concurrently, we have been working on a policy governing the use of body cameras. We have a draft and we plan to make the policy available soon. We want to make certain our officers know the rules for the use of body cameras so that accountability and integrity are maintained in the program. We have collected input from various stakeholders, and I want to thank them for their participation. Also, we are adding support personnel to help manage the captured video. We are in the process of identifying and training employees to do that job as well. At the same time, on funding, we are pleased to announce that the Bureau of Justice Assistance has awarded the City of Wichita a $250,000 grant for the body-worn camera program. As far as the pretext stop policy, the Wichita Police Department has a comprehensive racial and other bias-based policing policy and a vehicle pedestrian stops policy, which addresses stops, detentions, and how supervisors and officers should handle racial profiling complaints. We are making progress, but the policy is still under review. The Wichita Police Department conducted research and subsequently received recommendations from a legal consultant regarding stop, detention, and search documentation. The draft policy has been approved by WPD executive staff and the city's law department. The Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, has completed its review and has recommended minor changes. The final step will be to give the policy out to our citizens for their consideration. Let me also update you on the mental health first aid training and crisis intervention training progress. The WPD will exceed the original goal to have more than half of its officers complete the mental health first aid training by December of 2015. Currently, 75% of our officers have been trained in mental health first aid. 25 more are scheduled for December 10th, which will increase our total number trained to 80%. 19 officers completed the week-long basic CIT training in June. WPD now has 103 officers trained in basic crisis intervention. Also on the Citizens Advisory Board, to increase the transparency into internal matters, the Citizens Advisory Board has moved forward in its progress. The team has drafted an ordinance to create the new advisory board and subcommittee, City Manager's Review Board. Additionally, they have recommendations to update the current MOU for the Racial Profiling Board. These recommendations follow those suggested by the Wichita Police Department's organizational assessment. Because the new Chief of Police will be an essential component of the success of the board, no further action will be taken until the new Chief of Police is hired. Now, as you can see by the update, the Wichita Police Department is moving forward, and we are very busy accomplishing many tasks. Those are just the highlights we would like to share today. The Wichita Police Department is committed to ethical behavior, protecting the community, diversity, and problem solving. We do this by partnering with the community on projects such as those mentioned today. The men and women that put on the uniform to protect the city are doing a phenomenal job of staying safe, on task, and making Wichita a safer community. At this time, I will take a few questions.
The $250,000 grant, is that going to be earmarked for any specific area or purpose?
No, but what it will do is assist us in the overall bill. It will help us determine and reduce the overall costs that we had to come up with. We haven't met yet to decide how and what areas that will go, but it certainly helps us in our task in getting the cameras for this department.
So is it all paid for now?
No. And right now, again, we're still with the implementation. We were phasing it into the different stations to make sure we get to the full implementation by year's end. But right now, with this money, and we wrote the grant, everything's not paid for, but this will help in paying the bills.
This has to have a local match. What funds are you using to match that?
Again, we still have to meet on that as well and determine what or where those funds will be taken from.
You talked about still working on the policy. Do you think that you guys will end up having officers have these on all the time, or will it be something that is at their discretion? We
have a draft policy that our citizen groups have been reviewing at this time. So with that policy, what we have to have done is our officers have to be trained beforehand and to understand the technical aspects, turn it on, not turn it on, all those things that we have determined are best, and also our citizens under that review. So in the end, we got to have the policy in place before we actually deploy the cameras.
And there, you said the policy is going to go to the community now?
It's out now. With the draft policy has been out to members or various community groups for input. But we're going to make that draft available. We'll make the policy available to all citizens soon.
Have any of them responded with suggestions or input yet?
Yes, we have had input and suggestions, and we're incorporating those. At the same time, we looked at what's going on across the country, what's best for departments. And if it was an easy thing, it'd be a quick fix. There'd be one policy for all departments. There is not one policy, as we have found out during our research. And what we're doing is making sure this policy is best for our Wichita Police Department and the citizens of this city.
Is this the most community involvement you've had in something that you've done here?
Yes, this is a very big project. This is why what I'm laying out today is behind the scenes we have been doing a lot of work, continuous work on all the projects that have been laid out by the organizational assessment. And in doing so, I wanted to share some of the good news on mental health training. Some of the things that when I went to the meetings up front with the community on No Ferguson Here, some of those initiatives that have been laid out, we've worked on. And I wanted to make sure that we get this information out to our citizens.
You said that the FOP had some minor changes. Can you talk about those and whether you will implement those changes or plan to?
Yes, we work together well with our union, and at this point, the suggestions were minor, and in doing so as management, we have to work together and cover those issues. But together, what we have and what we put out to the public is what we have agreed on. So we have talked to and worked together on the policy.
There have been concerns expressed by people in the community that the cameras may still not lead to the kind of transparency they're hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
What can you say to speak to those concerns?
Well, cameras are technology. In any technology, even on some of the camera footage we've had, there's been debate from citizens and department on what we're actually seeing. Does this comply with policy? Does it not? So there may still be a challenge on what's seen, but at least in my book, there's documentation of the incident. Now again, we also have to look at where the camera is worn and whether something's distorted, whether I don't have a view of a certain incident. I mean, all comes into play. And what I have to say to that is case by case, we're going to try to make video available. and make sure that here's the documented event, which will help the department. It will further our cause and being more open.
You also talked about CIT training, how WPD has surpassed that halfway mark. Was that always in the plan? When did that start in terms of surpassing the mark, and why do you believe it is so important?
No, to even lay that out in today's environment, we have challenges of staffing and resources as well. This is a big thing that started during the organizational assessment. We committed to training our members because that was a big issue on crisis intervention or mental health training for our officers. And we've had the commitment from our supervision, our command staff, and our members to get that done. And so we put forth our efforts in that, and we have trained our officers. And we still have a little ways to go, but we're certainly ahead of where I at least projected. At least half of our officers, and we're at 75%.
On the storage side of the body cameras, how long will you all be able to or plan to store some of this footage?
Yeah, I'm not prepared to go into the details of how long the storage at this point, because we still want to make sure it's available, but also go by state law or laws regarding storage of video or that sort of thing. In the end, we want to make sure it's long enough through appeals or whatever the case is, that depending on the case, you got several variations from traffic stops to actual use of force incidents. That all comes into play on how long we keep information.
You also said, sorry, just to clarify, as far as adding a couple positions to help roll this out, can you talk about how many and where, like what section of the department they'll be in?
Yes, we're rolling out a couple of clerk positions. First, we have to this body camera is a big project. It is one of the bigger projects we've seen as a department. To take current staff and take existing staff would have been a challenge. So what we're doing is providing staff clerks, first off, on review of video. We also have to have personnel to track equipment. If something breaks, we have to send it in and repair it and keep track of. We have to have cataloging of the actual videos, and we have to have Cora requests handled. We're going to get requests on videos as well. So that's what those personnel will be doing. And also I've added one to professional standards because at the end of the day, they're going to have to also review in regards to complaints that may come in. So we're adding a position there as well.
So how many in all? Sorry, did I miss that?
How many? I believe.
What's that?
How many positions in all? I believe it's 5.
5 or 6.
5 or 6. But I can get that to you.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
one more question.
Chief, while you're here, can you talk a little bit about the internal file that's come out and the whole DV situation?
Yeah. The limited access file, what I can say about that is the city's law department is reviewing that process or that practice right now, and we're working with them on that. When the review is complete, basically we'll be able to share our findings with you, and we'll do so at that time. But right now, even the practice of the limited access file are being reviewed.
And as
Thank you,
far
Chief.
as your situation with the accusations and all of that, what can you say about what happened?
Well, to answer your question, basically it was an incident 10 years ago with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. We're married today. As you all know, relationships have highs and lows. I mean, I'm not telling you anything different than, any one of us have an experience in our life. What I can tell you is that the Wichita Police Department fully investigated that matter 10 years ago. I can also tell you that that matter was presented to the district attorney's office, and no charges were decided. They were declined at that time. Just like anything, my wife and I regret the argument. I mean, I can't say any more about that. But we've moved on to build our beautiful family. And in the end, I hope that, people hopefully will respect our privacy.
Can you talk about the KAS, why that was used and why it hasn't been used since?
But I wasn't involved in the investigation. My focus is as interim chief. I'm the police chief today, and I want to handle hand over this police department to a department chief, once one's selected, in the best way I can. And my focus is on this department. You know, you're hearing the fabulous work we're doing, and that's where my focus is.
Were you aware that your case was in the limited access file
Again, you know,
at the time?
I had no involvement with the case. I didn't investigate it. All I can say is I fully cooperated. You know, I didn't keep track of my case, although I can tell you I was told the case was presented to the DA's office and no charges were filed, you know. And again, my focus today is chief.